welcome to this week's Ask Me Anything. My name is Amber Hug, and I am the National Education Manager for Schwarzkopf Professional. And I want to ask you, it's spooky season. What are you going to dress up as this year for Halloween? I don't even know if I'm doing anything for Halloween. I have a couple of costumes. Maybe I'll get a new one. Not sure yet. But what are you going to dress up as for Halloween this year? Type it into the chat box as we start to type in our questions as well, because I'm going to answer any questions that you have. Also, what's the spookiest hair color you've seen this season? Because I know we've all been there and seen it. So type in your answers and type in your questions so that I can answer them. But before we get started, speaking of spooky, is it spooky that maybe I've heard some of you have addressed seeing our color, Schwarzkopf color, sold on Amazon and maybe Target? And you may be asking, wait, what's going on? Why is this color available on these other areas? Like, why is it being sold here? Well, we just want to have a conversation, and rest assured, we are not providing color for Amazon. We are not providing color for Target. So both of them can get their color from any third party, and they're not always vetting the people that they're getting their color from. So I know that we've been seeing a lot of you asking the question, why can I get this color on Amazon, or why can I get this color on Target? And I just wanted to have this conversation and let you know that this is not something that us as Schwarzkopf Professional are providing to Amazon and to Target. There are lots of third-party people who will sell their own color, and because they're not being vetted by these companies, that's why you're seeing that color out there. So just wanted to have that conversation because I know it's a bit of a spooky conversation when we see those things out on those platforms. So rest assured that is not something we are providing to these companies. Now let's get into the heart of it. We want to start answering your questions. So think of any questions you have, whether it's about our IGORA Real, maybe it's about our Blonde Me, maybe it's about our IGORA Vibrance, maybe you're new to the brand and you're trying to learn how to use the brand. Type in your questions into the chat box. If you're watching from Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, we will get all of those questions gathered and I will answer them for you live here on all of these platforms. And if you miss it today, you can always rewatch it on Facebook and on YouTube. So let's get started here. We have one question about fashion color. Now, as far as fashion color goes, there's a lot of fashion color. So there's a lot of things that this could be. So I'm going to start with our fashion lights, because when I think of fashion color, I think of vibrant, really passionate colors. And our fashion lights are shades that you up to 4 levels. So I said 4, but I meant 5 levels of lift and tone in one step, even on previously colored hair. They come in a lovely purple box and they look like this. So we have 5 different shades. We have everything from just like a natural all the way to a red violet. And because it is a spooky season, I could see these bottom 3, the red, the copper, and the red violet, being utilized this season to really give you these really fun copper and red and really vibrant red violet tones. So if you're seeing a lot of these really fun reds for the winter, these can give you up to 5 levels of lift and tone in one step, even on previously colored hair. So if you have somebody who's a level 5 brunette and she wants to get red highlights, I don't have to lift her first and then apply a final color. I can lift her with my L-88, which is my fashion light, mixed with my 40 volume IGORA Rail developer, and I will achieve this really vibrant red in one step. Now, this is put on a level 5 swatch. So these are the expectations you can get if you're on a level 5. If you're on a level 2, it'll be a little bit darker. If you're on a level, it's going to be even brighter. But this is such a great option, especially we're seeing a lot of coppers. If you want to do highlights on a copper that are more vibrant and poppy, L-77 with 40 volume and foils is phenomenal. So that is, when I think of fashion colors, that's what I think of. But we have some other questions starting to come in. So as we go through this, start to type in your questions. If I can't answer any of your questions, we do have an skpedu.com where you can book a one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert or educator from Schwarzkopf, and they can answer your questions for you. So let's get right into it. How different are the IGORA colors from Shades EQ? Is IGORA a shade darker or lighter? This is an excellent question. Shades EQ versus Agora Vibrance. Now, typically what I like to say is maybe an acidic versus a alkaline demi-permanent hair color. So when we're talking about switching from another brand, specifically shades, what I would say is that your difference has to do with your backgrounds. So with some colors, they have backgrounds like a brown tan background or a black blue background. Whereas we have more of a, I would say we kind of have a background because we're a balanced brown under most of our color, but it's a little bit different because our shades tend to be slightly cooler. So because our shades are slightly cooler, your eye perceives coolness as depth. If we think about, if you look at black versus white, black is going to absorb light and appear very deep, where white is going to reflect light. So when we see something that has coolness to it, our eye perceives depth. So for that, I would say typically our shades might appear slightly deeper than shades EQ just because we're slightly cooler. So when you are switching from, say, shades over to Vibrance, I recommend that you start with toners in the level 10 series. So our level 10 toners are a very sheer toner, and they're meant to be put on a level 9 pale yellow, like inside of a banana peel yellow, and give you that nice soft deposit. So if you are switching over and you're used to, I don't know, a 9V or a 9P, something in that category, switching over and starting with your level 10 toners is going to be a perfect option for you. So to say that our shades are lighter or darker, there's not a true answer to that because all levels are the same, but we are slightly cooler and we do tend to have slightly more pigment weight. So hopefully that answers that question. If you have more specific questions in that brand, definitely check out skpedu.com. And the other thing you can do is go to our Switch with skp.com page. There is a download center there. And in that download center, you're going to find tons of material that might even help you on your conversion side. So next, we have a question. How and when do you use Vibrance? This is an excellent question. If you're new to Schwarzkopf, you might even be like, what is Vibrance? So Vibrance is Schwarzkopf Professional's demi-permanent hair color range. It's this beautiful pink book here, and then all of our colors come in this beautiful pink packaging. What I love about it is that we have a liquid demi-permanent hair color here, but we have different developers. We have a cream and a gel developer, or activator is what we call these, and they activate the pigments. The gel makes it so that you can utilize Vibrance in a bottle for a very quick application, and then your allows you to get more of a thicker consistency for more control. So our Vibrance is our demi-permanent hair color range. So when would you use it and how would you use it? So you're going to use a demi-permanent color for multiple reasons. It might be because you're refreshing mid-lengths and ends. You might be toning your client's hair. But what I love about our Vibrance, because it's an alkaline base, you actually have the ability to get gray blending up to 70%. How many of you out there have done gray coverage with Agora Real, and maybe it's more gray coverage than you want? We're starting to see more of that gray blending versus that stark line of outgrowth. So maybe you want to switch them over to more gray blending where you're getting more of seeing those highs and lows. Agora Vibrance can do that for you. So as far as how to use it, there are lots of ways to use it. However, using the 6-volume gel is going to be great for refreshing mid-lengths and ends and toning hair. 6-volume lotion is amazing when you want to do a shadow root and low lights in the hair. And the 13-volume activator lotion is what you want to use to get that maximum gray blending within your brand. So lots of different options here. If you have been doing, say, permanent color on someone's hair, and you find that every time you color their hair, it tends to go warm, and your client is complaining about this warmth, they're like, I get the gray coverage, but my hair's always warm. Try switching them to Vibrance. Because with a permanent hair color range, you're getting a lot of lift and shift as you're getting that gray coverage. You're going to get less of that shift when you're using Vibrance. Therefore, you're not going to get as much of that underlying warmth. So I've actually switched over some of my clients to Vibrance for gray coverage because my Dash 00 series has that extra pigment weight. And I can add this into any formula, just 1/3 of my formula with the Dash 00, and I will achieve that up to 70% white blending mixed with my 13-volume activator lotion. So just 1/3 of your formula needs to be the Dash 00 and then 13-volume activator lotion, and you're going to get up to 70% gray blending. But on top of that, we have so many swatches here for our level 10 and 9.5 series toners. So we have lots of options for you here as well if you're doing a toning service. So it's a perfect option for toning. So Kim, that was a loaded question, but an excellent question. And that was a short answer. If you want more answers, just know that we also do free virtual classes online where we really go in depth on how to use each brand. Our next class is going to be November 17th. So join us November 17th. You can go to our website, Schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com, and you can find all of our classes there, or the switchwithskp.com. It will take you to a link to register for our virtual classes. So check us there, and we can give you even more information on that. So the next question I have here is, will Royal 00 with 10 volume cover gray for most as opposed to 20 volume? Great question. So for Schwarzkopf Professional, we are talking about, and I'm assuming that you're talking about IGORA Real because you're talking 10 and 20 volume, and our 00 is going to be our -00 series, and I think that swatch is right here. So -00, it has 20%, 25% more pigment weight than the -0. These are meant to be used for your clients that have that really resistant gray hair. These are going to help you to get that extra gray coverage. So with these, it says, will 10 volume cover gray as opposed to 20 volume? Now, these actually have a special rule. These are actually meant to be used with 20 or 30 volume IGORA Real developer. Now, the reason behind that is because of the extra pigment weight. There is more pigment weight, so typically you're using these on that coarse resistant white hair. So we recommend 20 volume if you're 90 to 100% white. If you're using them by themselves. If you're under 90% white, we actually recommend 30 volume. Here's the why. If we think of a pigment is, think of it as a flat balloon. When a balloon is flat, it's really dense and rich in pigment. But as you start to blow it up, it becomes more sheer. So if we blow up our -00 pigment, that's extra pigment, to 20 volume, it's still pretty intense. So if I put that on a white strand of hair, that's that perfect level 6. But if I take that same level 6 balloon at 20 volume and put it on an already pigmented strand of hair, it's going to appear deeper. So we recommend mixing it with 30 volume to make that balloon a little bit more sheer and also allow you to have that color come out as the level 6. Now your question about 10 volume, would you get 100% gray coverage with 10 volume? On fine hair, yes. However, because of the extra pigment weight, a level 6 with 10 volume might appear slightly deeper than a level 6. So that was the only thing that I would caution you on. However, I don't like to use these by themselves. If you want really great results with these are very matte. They're going to give you really intense coverage. For somebody that wants that shoe polish, really intense coverage, for me, I like to actually mix these into my formulas. So even if I did want just a neutral, I might mix a 6-0 with my 6-00. This way I'm getting that extra gray coverage, but it's not as matte of a finish. So if you're mixing these into a formula, 20 volume is good. And if somebody had fine hair texture, you could probably get away with 10 volume as well when it's mixed into a formula. So I hope that helps, but if you have a more specific question, again, skpedu.com. You can go to, and you can book your one-on-one appointment. So next question I have here. Ooh, I love this one. I've been seeing Tracy Cunningham use IGORA for a bump for 5 minutes. Why is she using it this way, and does she get any gray coverage? Excellent question, and you are absolutely right. Tracy is known for doing a base bump with IGORA Real, which is our permanent hair color range, and just putting it on for 5 minutes to achieve a lift and shift on the base. We like to consider it a root smudge, if you will. A smudge is going to have a little bit of deposit, but it's more about the lift. So when Tracy is using a permanent IGORA Real shade to try to get a base bump, what she's trying to do is get that lift, but she wants the control of the pigment weight that's in that color. So is she getting gray coverage? No. The clients that she's using our IGORA Real on to create a base bump don't need the gray coverage. They're just looking for that base bump. 5 minutes is not enough time to get gray coverage, so you will not get gray coverage. because I was lucky enough to work side by side with Tracy as she was switching over with the brand, and I have worked with her a lot, the reason she likes to use permanent color for that base bump is especially if you're on a brunette. And say I'm going from a level 5 and I want to shift her to a level 6, maybe. I don't want a strong bump, I just want a little bit. But if I just put on, I don't know, just like a base breaker, I don't have a lot of pigment weight. Whereas if I take, say, 7-21, which is my Ash Cendre, or maybe I take something like any sort of cool shade, maybe 7-1, which is my Cendre, I have that underlying warmth when I lift that hair. So I have those cool shades to kick out that underlying warmth so that when I get that shift on the base bump, it's a shift that also has a little bit of coolness to it. So yes, Tracy does use IGORA Rail many times as a base bump, and she'll use 20 or 30 volume, and she'll use a cooler shade to get that slight shift and keep that little bit of tonal value to it, but it's usually 5-10 minutes max. So great question, and no, you will not get great coverage on that one, but that is why she likes to use it that way. So next question I have here, why do some hair use processing cap when you vibrance for gray blending? Wouldn't that cause a base bump on a finer texture? Is this an excellent thought and question? Because it's a little bit of both, right? So there are different ways. You've seen vibrance in open air. You've seen vibrance used with a cap over top of it. So what does a cap do? If somebody is using a cap, you're keeping color nice and moist, one. However, that color is going to stay that way anyways, even without the cap. But two, most of the time if somebody's using a cap, it's because they're trying to trap in some of the heat of the scalp to get better coverage. So to your point, could that cause a base bump on a finer hair texture? And the answer to that is yes, it could. So 13 volume Agora Rail developer can allow you to get more shift than what a 6 volume developer can. And I say developer, but I really mean activator. They're the same things. Your activator is developing the color pigments. So on a fine hair texture, when something has an alkaline base, you do have that ability to shift the natural base a little bit and cause a base bump. So if somebody does have a fine hair texture and you don't want to get that shift, either A, you'd want to use a lower color. So for instance, if somebody's using a level, like if they're naturally a level 7 and you're using a level 8 on them, chances are you could shift that base by using a lighter level. So if I am trying to get gray coverage on that same client and she's a level 7, I would want to use a level 7 and not go lighter to avoid getting that base bump. So you can still use a cap, but on fine hair, just know there is that chance of that slight shift of the base because there is a little bit more warmth, which can cause that. But the reason processing caps are used is to trap in that warmth. And the thought there is to open up that hair cuticle a little bit more and drive that pigment into the hair to try to get better gray coverage. So when people are using processing caps, it's typically to try to get a little bit more gray coverage. And then yes, you do have that ability to slightly shift that base, but stick to 6 volume if you want to not shift the base. Or something that Tracy also does a lot is mixes a 13 with a 6 volume. While that's not manufacturer recommended, if you want something in between, she has done that for some of her clients where she doesn't want to risk that shift of the base, but she wants a little bit more than what a 6 volume can get her. So there's a couple of tips and tricks for you. If you want some more answers on that, again, you can also book your appointment with an Ask Expert on our skpedu.com page. You can book a one-on-one and ask a specific question to an educator, and they can answer that specific question. So next question, can you recommend a perfect pearl color in the Vibrance line? So everybody's idea of pearl is going to be different, correct? And if you think pearl, there are some color lines where maybe there is a specific pearl. But I will say that my favorite for a pearl is our -1. Our -1 is a blue violet. It's that cendre. It's a very soft blue violet, and it creates that hint of a pearl. So pearl to me sounds like iridescent, something that has a iridescent where you can see those cool tones to it, but it's got that little bit of blue, little bit of violet into it. The -1, and that's going to give you this beautiful pearl. If you want a little bit more of that iridescent, I love taking the -19. Now on this swatch, this -19 looks pink. I promise you, if it's on a yellow base, it's not going to be pink. It just has more of that blue violet. So it's got a blue violet and then it's got an extra violet. That extra violet kicks out the unwanted warmth and leaves a beautiful tone. The reason it looks pinky on this swatch is because this is a white swatch. There was no pigment on this swatch before we put it on here, so you knew exactly what was in this tone. When you put this on a yellow base, that violet kicks out the yellow and leaves you with this most beautiful pearl shade. So I would either use -1, so either a 10-1 or a 9.5-1 toner, or mix a 9.5-1 with a -19, that Cendré Violet, mixing the two of those together gives you a little bit more of that pearl, a little bit more of that iridescent. So I hope that helped. Again, I was just talking toners. If you're talking about a pearl in a lower color, again, book your one-on-one appointment at skpedu.com. So next question I have is, when I use 6 volume in Vibrance, sometimes I get a shift at the base. Let's be real. Let's have this conversation. If somebody has a fine hair texture, sometimes you still can experience a slight shift with 6 volume. How can you avoid that? Well, one is maybe go slightly darker on the color that you're using. Anytime you have a color, and in most brands it's going to be the same, if it's an alkaline color, the lighter the color, the more alkalinity you have. The darker the color, the less alkalinity that you have. Therefore, if you go more on level, your ability to shift that base is going to be less, or you're depositing more of that color to where you're going to see less of that base shift. That's option 1. Option 2, do you know we actually have toners in our Blonde Me range? Blonde Me has toners. We have regular toners and we have deep toners. Now, what I want you to know about our Blonde Me toners, for those of you that are like, I don't want to have to worry about a shift. I have a client with really fine hair. If I use 6 volume, I don't want her base to shift. You could always use our Blonde Me toners. Our Blonde Me toners are pH neutral. So when we think of the pH system, the pH system is going to be 7 is pH neutral. Anything above 7 is considered an alkaline base. Anything below 7 is considered an acidic base. On hair, an acidic base is going to lay down that cuticle layer, and it's going to neutralize and lay down that cuticle layer. Whereas if it's an alkaline base, it's going to open up that hair cuticle just enough to drive that hair colored molecule in a little bit deeper. However, if it's an alkaline base, you also risk shifting that base if it's a finer hair texture. So if I'm doing something that's pH neutral, then that's going to not open up the cuticle and not allow that shift on the base. So try out our Blonde Me toners if you want something that is not going to shift the base at all. We have a lot of shades within this. Instead of having numbers, we have names. So you have like steel blue, you have ice iris, you have sand. So lots of different choices here. There's warm choices, there's cool. But what I love is we also have deep toners. The deep toners are darker levels of toners. These can be used as low lights in the hair. These can be used as a shadow root in the hair, or they can be mixed with your toner to create custom shades, to create whatever you're looking for that toner. These are meant to be mixed with your 7 volume Blonde Me developer. You don't need anything more than 7 volume because you're just creating that deposit. So if you're a little bit scared of that slight risk of getting a shift on the base, with our Vibrance, you have the option of our Blonde Me toners that are pH neutral with our 7 volume Blonde Me developer instead. So give it a try if you haven't. They are stunning shades. And you might ask, why do you have toners in Blonde Me and also toners in Vibrance? That seems a little redundant. Well, it's not. A, there's a little bit different technology that we just talked about. And B, if you are loving the color line that you have now, but you want a premium blonding line, Blonde Me can be that for you. You could just bring in Blonde Me, have all the lighteners you need, all the toners you need. You can have a bleach and tone shade to add into your liner to help tone while lifting. You can have lifting shades. You can have lift and blend shades where you're getting a high lift and gray coverage. So we have a full premium blonding category with our Blonde Me. So if you're someone who's like, I love the color line that I use, but I'm struggling with my blondes, bring in our Blonde Me range. It's not just a lightener. We have a lot of other things in here, and that's why we have separate toners within the Blonde Me range. So you could just use Blonde Me for all of your blonding needs and use your other favorite line for everything else. So great question, love that one, and it allowed me to speak a little bit about our amazing Blonde Me range. So next, can I use alkaline color after discoloration high level? Excellent question. This is a good question because when you think about it, if I've used a discoloration, that means I have a chance of breaking bonds in the hair. Anytime you lift hair, regardless of, all of our lighteners have a bonding agent in them, right? We have our fiber bond technology here to help protect the bonds as you're lifting. We also have, a lot of people use outside bonding sources that they add into lighteners to help protect the bonds. But is that foolproof? Can I still break the hair even if I've used a bonding agent in it? You can still push it too far. So if I've done a discoloration service or done a high level, so say I've done, like level 10 blonde, and can I still use an alkaline color over top of it? And the answer to that is yes. But you want to make sure whatever alkaline color you're using has a low alkalinity. That's where Vibrance comes in. Vibrance is alkaline based. We've talked about this a lot, but it's a low alkalinity, especially in our toners. You don't need a lot of alkalinity to get that deposit. So we're using just the lowest amount. The only reason we even have alkalinity is so that you have more versatility with this brand. So if I've lifted my client with, say, a level 12, and she was a level 6 naturally, and I used, say, 12-2 on her hair, and her hair is still warm, could I tone her hair with a Vibrance? Yes, you can still tone her hair with a Vibrance. I would recommend utilizing whatever works best for you, because you've already lifted that hair. You don't need the additional lift. You're looking for that deposit. So you absolutely can use an alkaline based color. I would just avoid a high alkalinity. So for instance, if I did 12-2 and I'm like, hey, I know there's a 10-21, which is a level 10, and that's that blue cendre. So that's the ash cendre. So it's got a lot of coolness. Could I use that to tone even though I lifted her with a high lift? I wouldn't recommend that. You already lifted with a high alkalinity. You don't want another high alkalinity to go over top of. So make sure you're using a toner such as Vibrance or Blonde Me if you're going to tone over top of hair that has been lifted or discolored. So same token, if you want to take that hair back down, you're recommending Vibrance to bring that hair back down. So maybe I lifted her previously to a level 12 blonde and now she wants to go to brunette. I can still use my Vibrance for that, and I even have these 3 shades that can be a filler for the hair first. And then I would rinse these out of the hair. So these would be mixed. My 0-55, which is gold, 0-77 with it, which is my orange, and 0-88, which is my red. I can use these with 6 volume, either gel or lotion, apply that all over, let it sit for 10 minutes, simply rinse that from the hair, blow dry to 100%, and apply my final formula. So even if I'm doing a tint back on hair that has been previously discolored, you can absolutely use Vibrance. All right, what do the small dots mean next to the swatches? Yes, this is a great question here. So you might have seen in all of our books, there are little dots next to each swatch. And you might be like, okay, I don't understand. Why do we have so many dots? What's going on? So I want to explain what these dots mean. So when we see a tan dot, and we're in our IGORA VIBRANCE books, that tan dot represents that shade is available in Vibrance, which is our Demi permanent range. So I know that when I'm going through my IGORA VIBRANCE book, if I want to do a dual application service where I'm doing permanent on the regrowth and I'm doing a Demi permanent on the mid-lengths and ends, I know automatically if I chose 8-11 for the regrowth, I can see that I have this available in Vibrance, so I could do that through mid-lengths and ends with Vibrance. Now the other dot, the darker brown dot, is going to represent color 10. Color 10 is our 10-minute hair color range. So if I've done 8-11 on my client's hair on her regrowth in IGORA VIBRANCE, but the next time she comes in, she's 20 minutes late, and I don't want to get behind that day, I know that this color is also available in color 10, so maybe this time I'm going to choose 8-11 in my color 10, my 10-minute permanent hair color range to color her hair that day to where it processes in 10 to 15 minutes versus 30 to 45 minutes, and that is available there as well. Now this book is a little bit older, but some of the newer books will also have a green dot. You might be like, what does the green dot represent? I don't get that. Well, guess what? We have an ammonia-free range called IGORA 0. So if you do see a green dot next to a swatch, that green dot is going to represent that is available in IGORA 0. What I love is that every book has these dots. So if we're looking at this book, you'll see a dot next to each swatch. If it is that tan dot, it means it's available in IGORA Vibrance. Vibrance also has these dots. In IGORA VIBRANCE, you'll notice the dot is either a red dot or it's that dark brown dot. So the red dot is going to represent that that's available in IGORA Real. If it's a dark brown dot, it's going to be available in color 10. And in a newer book, there could be a green dot as well, which would represent IGORA 0. So the dots represent the color brands and what's available in them. So excellent question. I hope that helped you out. What I love about that is really I could grab just an IGORA Real book and I know pretty much everything I'm going to have. The only thing I'm missing then would be the toners and vibrance, but almost every other single color would be available in this book, and it will show me by looking right at the swatches. So love that question. So next question here. Can you suggest me the best low light formula for deep beige neutral blonde? So again, everybody's idea of what deep beige neutral blonde is going to be different. And we're seeing a lot of trends right now in our blondes, like suede blonde or money blonde. There's so many different words that are coming out. For me, when I hear you saying that deeper beige neutral blonde, I think of like a suede blonde. How can I create that beautiful kind of Sydney Sweeney, like suede blonde as a low light? So we have a lot of different options. And I will say one of my favorite options to utilize is my -42 series, which is in my IGORA VIBRANCE and also in IGORA Real. -42 is going to be that, it's going to be beige first, but it's got an ash background to it. Because when I think a deeper beige neutral blonde, we've got a level 7 here. The beige is my first color, but then I've got that ash that softens it out. If somebody's beige naturally, they almost have this hint of a gray to it. I kind of compare like a natural level 7 kind of golden blonde to like the sand when the sun comes out. When the sun comes out, the sand is really beigey, but you almost see this hint of an ashy undertone. And that's what these are going to give you. And this is that level 7. So love using the 7-42 as like a really deep beige neutral blonde. Now, what I also like to do sometimes is mix in a -46. So 8-46 is going to be a beige chocolate. That beige is going to give you that beautiful beige tone, and then that chocolate adds this like richness, this like milk chocolate that's going to just help anchor that color. So sometimes I like to mix my 7-42 with my 8-46, which is that beige chocolate, and create this nice deep color. Now, if that wasn't a good enough answer for you, or you just want to know some extra options for that, you can book your one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert by going to skpedu.com and ask an educator what their opinion is, because what they use might be different than what I use. And I don't know about you, but for me, I like to have lots of opinions and not just one. So I hope that that helps for you. And next up, if I used L-89, but it's too bright, how can I tone it down? Aiming for a deep wine shade. The tones I have are beautiful, just too bright. That's an excellent question. So we talked about the fashion lights right at the beginning because, I mean, I love the fashion lights and they might be my favorite in the brand. And somebody asked about fashion colors. So I did talk about the fashion lights already. They are these shades here. They come in a purple box. So the box looks like this, but it's lilac color instead of this color. They do have our fiber bond technology in them. They allow you to get up to 5 levels of lift and tone in one step, even on previously colored hair. So this is L-89. That's going to be my fashion lights, and it's that red violet. It can get very intense, right? So if I've used this and all of a sudden this soft wine shade I wanted looks more like magenta in her hair, how can I tone that down? So for me, I like to think of the color circle and what am I looking to tone down? I know that you mentioned you want it to be more of a red wine, deep shade. So if I'm looking at my color circle here, this is going to be helpful. I want to let you know that if you go to our switchwithskp.com page, so that's switchwithskp.com, and go to our download center, you can actually download this color circle there along with our number system. What I love about this is it actually shows you all the shades that we have in the range on the outside of this color circle, and it tells you what that number represents. So the L-89 is going to be a red violet. So when I think red violet and it's too bright, I'm going to think that it probably has too much red in it. That's what's giving it its brightness. So if you're trying to create more of that wine shade, I would recommend taking something from our violet category and putting that into your color. So when you go into our reds page, I'm going to show it in IGORA Real and also in Vibrance, but we have a couple of different options here. So in your violet shades, you have everything from a level 4 all the way up to a level 6. Now, depending on what your idea of wine, deep wine is, you may take a 6-99 and put that right over top of, and that might just be enough because that's that violet extra. So that's giving you that extra violet tone. But to create a level 6 violet, you've got a little bit more red still. So maybe that's a little more red than you want. Maybe you could do a 4-99, but maybe that's too dark. So you could take your 6-99 level 6 violet extra and add 0-99, which is our violet extra, into it. And that violet is going to have some blue tone. That's going to tone down some of that red that you're seeing and give you more of that deep wine shade. So I recommend starting with the violet series and putting that over top of the red violet that you have applied and seeing if that helps. If that wasn't enough to tone it down, I would say our -68, which is a chocolate red, will help to add a little bit of brown to that shade as well, so that you're browning it out slightly. But I would start, because you're looking at wine, start with the -99 shades. I think that's going to be the best option for you, and those are available in Vibrance as well. So you could even just put an overlay on Vibrance and use your 6-99 here, and you can mix this 6-99 with a 0-99 booster, which is that booster that is the violet extra. So I would mix these two together in Vibrance, and this is going to give you that really nice wine shade, especially because you're putting it over that red that you already have. So I hope that helps. If you do that and it doesn't work, you can always book your one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert and find out what they would do. But that would be my recommendation for a beautiful wine shade. And wine this time of year is such a good shade. What other spooky shades are you seeing? Again, would love to see any costumes you guys are going to have this year. Put them up and tag us on Schwarzkopf. All right, so can I mix Schwarzkopf products to make custom shades? When I hear you say mix Schwarzkopf products, I would like to say, hopefully you're saying within the same brand. However, I know that we're all hairstylists and we're all very creative, and we get creative with our formulas. So if we're talking like, can I mix any Vibrance shade together? Like, could I mix a level 9 with a 9.5-49? Absolutely, I can definitely mix that together. Could I mix, a red box with another red box? Great. Can I mix a red box with a blue box? No, probably not a good idea. Why? Because the technologies are different. This is a high lift shade. It's not going to have great coverage. This one is a regular IGORA Real shade. It has great coverage. So if I mix the two of those together, I'm no longer getting the great coverage I might be looking for from this one. If you're like, hey, I don't have what I need in IGORA Real, could I mix these two together? My Christmas colors? No. The answer to that is we don't recommend it. Mainly, here's what happens. Schwarzkopf has an R&D department, research and development, and we test products the way they're meant to be used. So I know that the R&D department has tested this by itself. I also know that the R&D department has tested mixing a couple of shades together in these boxes. But what I do know is that they're not going and mixing these two together. And why? Well, this one has an ammonia and this one is ammonia free. So if I want an ammonia free color, why am I mixing it with ammonia? It's not going to keep it ammonia free. You might say, okay, yeah, I get the rules, but I'm talking about breaking them. Can I break them? That's up to you. If you break the rules and it works for you, amazing. But you have to know the reason why you're breaking the rules. So if I'm mixing IGORA Real with IGORA Zero, why am I mixing these two together? Is it just because I'm missing a shade here and I'm hoping that it's available here? Because there's two different technologies. So you just have to ask yourself the reason why. I always say just know the rules before you break them. And if it works for you, fantastic. We just cannot guarantee those results. Now, speaking as a stylist, have I broken the rules? Yes. Every stylist has. Have I had a day where I had 7-77 available here and only 9-7 available here? Yep, sure did. Did I mix them together? Yep, I did. Would I do that to a client? No, but I did it on my own head, and the reason for it was because I knew that the shade was what I needed, and they're both color pigments, and while they're both alkaline based, one is ammonia, one is not, I wasn't so concerned about that ammonia-free option. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. However, we don't recommend mixing them. So I guess to answer your question, it's not recommended to mix different brands. However, within the brand, you can mix a couple of boxes together to create your own shade. And we recommend that. It's just not recommended mix different together because we cannot guarantee those results. So I hope that was an honest answer, a Schwarzkopf answer, but also a stylist answer for you. And if you have any more questions, again, book your one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert at skpedu.com. Excellent question. Earlier, we talked about discoloration. What is discoloration? You want to know one thing that can cause discoloration? Lightener. Discoloration is just it's taking out pigment from the hair. So hair has pigment in it naturally most of the time. The pigment starts to release. Basically, you have pigment in your hair. Discoloration would be taking that pigment out. When you use a lightener, you're breaking down the pigment that's in the hair, and the reason that you're seeing red or orange or yellow is because you're taking out all of the pigment, and all that's left is that warmth that the hair naturally has. Now in our swatch book, we even have an RPC, remaining pigment contribution chart here for each level, and this shows you what the underlying warmth is depending on that. But discoloration is essentially taking a lightener and removing color. That's all discoloration is removing the pigments from the hair and leaving that raw underlying warmth. So I hope that helps. A lot of discoloration is going to happen from either a lightener, or there are color removers. So a discoloration could just be that I used a color remover to remove the color pigments from the hair. So that's all discoloration is. So I hope that helped. I know that's a weird term and maybe not an everyday term. So thank you for asking that, because you were probably sitting there the whole time I'm talking about discoloration like, what is she talking about? So I hope that helped. So our next question here. All right, does color 10 keep processing? If you leave it on more than 10 minutes, will it get darker? This is an excellent question. Color 10 is our 10-minute hair color range in IGORA Real. This color is meant to be mixed with our IGORA Real red developers. So you're going to mix it right here with this. It does not have its own separate developers, which is great, because if I'm running behind in a day, I don't have to have a separate developer for this. So it's going to give me that 100% gray coverage in just 10 minutes or 15, depending on the coarseness of the hair. So if I leave this on for 30 minutes, what's going to happen? Will it get darker? The answer to that question is yes, it could look slightly deeper, but is it progressive? No, it is not progressive. It's not going to keep getting darker and darker and darker and going down to a black. Here's what's happening. Part of what makes this work, it has an amino acid carrier system is one. That amino acids uses the smallest amino acids, arginine and glycine, and we've attached a color pigment to those amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks of keratin, which is what our hair is made of, and our hair wants keratin. So when it sees the keratin, it's like, ooh, I'll take that, and it takes the color pigment at the same time. But it is that technology mixed with extra pigment that allows this to work faster. So let's think about this. I have extra balloons of pigment in here, and those extra pigments are going to continue to process. So when we're seeing that a level 5, if I've left it on for 30 minutes, might appear deeper, like almost maybe looks like a level 4. The reason for that isn't because it continues processing. It just means that those pigments are more dense. And the more dense a level 5 is, they're all still level 5 pigments, but there's more of them that have developed. And therefore, that level 5 will look more dense and more rich. So I think of it like the longer I leave it on, the more shoe polish it's going to look. If I like take shoe polish and put it on, I'm not going to see anything underneath of it. If I leave this on longer than the 10 minutes that's recommended, it could look slightly deeper. But the time I'm going to use color 10 isn't a time where I have to leave it on for 30 minutes. The time you're using color 10 is maybe somebody comes in for a T-zone. They just want the hairline colored, and I can leave it on for 10 minutes, get on to the next client. It's when I'm really quick at applying. It's not when I plan to leave it on for longer. So just remember to use this when you know you're going to let it process for 10 to 15 minutes. if you need it to process for 30 minutes, I would rather use IGORA Riel or maybe use Vibrance because they're meant to last for that long. So if you leave it on longer, it could be slightly deeper, but it's not meant to go black. It's not meant to keep getting darker. So I hope that that helps on that one. But I know that that's always a controversy. People are like, oh, it seems darker if I leave it on longer. It's because it's meant to develop for that time frame, and it's more dense pigment weight if you leave it on longer. Next question here. What's the difference between a booster and a neutralizer? I love this question. So a booster, if we think of the name, a booster is meant to boost and really pump up your hair color. So these are your boosters here, and your boosters are going to be your gold, which is 0-55, your copper, which is 0-77, your red, which is 0-88, your red violet, which is 0-89, and your violet extra, which is 0-99. These can be added into your color formula to really boost that hair color. So if I want a really, really intense red, I could mix, say, 7-88, that level 7 red extra. Say I do 20 grams of 7-88, I can add in up to 20 grams of my 0-88 booster. And then 20 and 20 equals 40, so it'd be 40 grams of my IGORA Vibrance Activator Lotion or gel, whatever you prefer. That booster is going to really boost that hair color and give you this extra boost of red that we're seeing here. Now that booster, the extra intensity of the booster is going to last up to 12 shampoos, whereas my 7-88 will last up to 20 shampoos. So I might see it getting a little bit less bright over time. Now my neutralizer, it's meant to neutralize out unwanted tones. These aren't meant to boost my color, they're meant to neutralize out. So 0-11, for instance, is that blue violet. So if I've got a lot of yellow orange, that blue violet is going to counteract that. So I would add it into a formula to neutralize out. So for instance, if I'm in IGORA Riel and I'm taking somebody from a level 6 to a level 8, I know that the underlying warmth there is going to be orange or yellow orange. So I want something that's going to neutralize at that level. So maybe I add in a little 0-11, which is that blue violet, into the formula to help neutralize out the unwanted yellow. If I'm a level 8 or above, I only need 5% of my color formula with the 0-11. If I'm at, say, a level trying to get up to a level 6 from a level 4, I know my underlying warmth at a level 6 is going to be orange. I know that blue is going to counteract orange, so I can add this blue into my formula to neutralize out the warmth that I'm going to see. So in that case, I can use up to 15% of my color formula with my 0-22 to neutralize out that warmth. By the same token, if I'm in a lower level and somebody has a lot of red, I'm lifting her from a level 1 to a level 4, and I know it's going to be red underneath, green is going to counteract red. I can add 0-33 to that formula to help neutralize the red that I'm going to see. So in that instance, if I'm doing that, I could take somebody like a level 4, I can do up to 25% of my color formula. So when I look at these, I think 5, 15, 25. 5%, add 10, we're at 15, add 10, we're at 25. So that is the amount that you can use to not see the color of the swatch. Now to that same token, you talked about boosters. Could I boost a 1-0 or 1-1 and really get intense blue by adding more of that? Sure. These are meant to be neutralizers, but could you use them as a quote-unquote booster? Sure. If I wanted to see like a 1-1, a level 1 Cendre, and I want to mix 0-22, which is my blue neutralizer, into it, and add developer in a 1-to-1 ratio, I can see this blue. Those rules of the 5, 15, and 25 are just when I want to neutralize and not see that tone. So neutralizers are simply neutralizing unwanted warmth, and boosters are boosting that vibrancy of the color. So I hope that helped. And if you have any more questions, skpedu.com, you can book your one-on-one appointment. All right, fashion lights can be used on previously colored hair. Are we talking permanent color? So when we talk about fashion lights and we talk about it being able to bust through, if you will, previously colored hair, what I want to say about that is it can break through demi-permanent color, it can break through permanent color. What I do to mention is you need to be cognizant of how much color is layered onto that hair. If somebody's been doing black box dye on their hair for years and I'm trying to get them this really intense copper, it's not going to work with the fashion light by itself. That's just not going to be enough it's not going to bust through the hair enough because it's layered color. But if somebody came to me and she had brunette hair. She's already a level 5 naturally, and we've just been doing a gloss on her hair with the Demi Permanent for years. I can use my my L-88, and it's really going to break through that hair color and give her what she needs. What you have to be cautious on is if somebody has been blonde and they went down to, say, a level 5, and now you're using this, you're removing the color you just put on, so you might get higher than you want and have an even more vibrant red tone. So you just have to be cognizant on how much color, but this will break through permanent and demi-permanent color. It's just that if it's been layered on for years and it's like an at-home box color, you may not get as intense of a result as if it's like color that's been on 2 to 3 times rather than layers of years worth of color. So I hope that that helps. It can break through permanent and demi-permanent color. As long as it's not been like layered for years, it will definitely break through. If it has, you'll still see a shift and a slight tonal value, but you might need lightener on somebody who's been box coloring their hair level 1 for years. So great question. I love that one. So next question, can you please explain why do you need less of 8-00 when mixing 9-1? I was told to mix 8-00 20 grams and 30 grams of 9-1. This is so confusing to me. I would think you need more of the 9-00. This is an excellent question. So I would say it's going to be per client. It doesn't mean that if you feel like you need more of 8-00, use more of 8-00. What we're trying to say here is that when you're trying to formulate for gray coverage in IGORA Riel, only 1/3 of your formula needs to be a natural that gives you 100% gray coverage. And so in this instance, what I want to point out is our 9-1 already on its own gives you 100% gray coverage. So I'm getting that 100% gray coverage. So if you were recommended to do 2 parts of 9-1, that's probably because they wanted to make sure that hair color stayed neutral and natural, and that -1 has that blue violet that's going to kick out unwanted warmth. But it sounds like your client also had some underlying or had resistant white hair, so this might have been recommended. The 8-00 has that extra pigment weight to give you that extra white coverage. Now, if you mixed 9-1 as 2/3 of your formula and only 1/3 8-00, and you felt like you didn't get that gray coverage that you were looking for, then maybe mix equal parts. So you can do it based upon what works for you. We always suggest starting with the 1/3 of your formula being this, so that the majority of your formula is the color you actually want. The other thing you could do, rather than doing 8-00, depending on what your end result is, you could mix 9-00 into the formula instead, because there is a level 9 and that has the extra pigment weight. So if putting in the level 8 makes it too dark, you could always use 9-00 as well. So while that was recommended to you, it was a recommendation based upon what they felt would be best for you to see that neutral tone. So if you want to try adding more 8-00, go for it. But the reasoning behind that was so that you would see the 9-1 and not necessarily the 8-00, because you wanted that sandrite tone. You wanted to counteract the warmth that would happen. And the neutral natural is still going to have a little bit of warmth because your natural does have that tiny bit of warmth. So I hope that helps. If though you feel like that wasn't quite the answer you're looking for, book your one-on-one appointment, skpedu.com. You can book a one-on-one appointment according to your schedule with an educator and talk through that one a little bit more. But I hope that helped. All right. Is a high lift gray coverage for someone that has white regrowth with white blonde ends? So high lift gray coverage. Let's talk about this one for a minute. High lift gray coverage can be really tricky because somebody who has gray hair, it might, if I'm trying to lift the naturally pigmented hair up to 4 levels, if I use a high lift, a 10 or 12 series, guess how much gray coverage is in this one? If you guess 0, you guessed correctly. There is no gray coverage in a blue box. So if I'm looking for 4 to 5 levels of lift and I want to use this blue box, I'm not going to get gray coverage. If anything, on the gray hair, it'll leave whatever the tone is here. So this one's ash. So it's going to leave kind of that bluish tint to the hair. So if I go down to a level 9 though, maybe a level 9 is too dark. So I'm looking at this level 9 swatch that I just held up and I'm thinking, my client's going to be mad at me if I go this dark on her hair color. So what do I do, Amber? I can't use a high lift and I can't use a level 9. What are my options? Well, Blonde Me has an amazing option for you. And Blonde Me has something called Lift and Blend Shades. These shades are meant to give you up to 4 levels of lift on the naturally pigmented hair and also tone the white hair, giving this beautiful multi-dimensional blonde. And when I say tone the white hair, I mean 100% gray coverage. The reason why we call it lift and blend is because when you create lift, you're creating warmth. When you're toning something, there's going to be less warmth. That's what's creating that multi-dimensional blonde. So with this, I have options of using this. Now, if their ends are white, I know you said regrowth, but you're talking with light blonde ends. If her ends are very light, we have toners that will match these lift and blend shades. So say for instance, she likes being in a cooler shade, I could use the lift and blend ice with 30 or 40 volume for her regrowth. Now, what's great about this is, guess what? I have an ice in my toner. So if her ends are blonde, I could take my same ice shade and mix it with my 7 volume Blonde Me Developer and put this through the mid-lengths and ends. Now, hair can be more porous. So for me, I'd probably do ice on the regrowth. Knowing that there's underlying warmth at that level, I would probably use ice for the regrowth. And then I might mix ice and sand equal parts for the mid-lengths and ends on that client to get this really beautiful refresh service. Mids and ends. So we do have an option for you for that client that has white hair but needs that high lift, because this is going to give you that. Now, just to be clear, these are meant to be used on a level 6 hair color or above. They're not going to get more than 4 levels of lift. And you will still get gray coverage with 30 or 40 volume developer. If you're level 8 or above, 30 volume is enough. Level 6 and 7, we do recommend 40 volume in a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, 1 part color to 1 part developer. So if you have not tried them yet, these are a staple in my back bar, a must have. So definitely give them a try. Go to your local distributor, find the lift and blend shades. The box will have an LB on the end for lift and blend. So next question here that we have. So, hello, question, how can I use the silver whites? Love this question. And actually, I see the question under it says something about Jack Martin, and so this goes hand in hand. So Jack Martin, he's somebody who does a lot of gray transformations. You've seen the transformations of the women who have like 4 inches of regrowth of salt and pepper, and then the ends are like brown or blonde or whatever. And Jack Martin is known for lifting up all of that hair and creating this beautiful just silver result to make it look like their natural gray hair just grew out of their head. He does use silver whites a lot for this. So silver whites were brought out to be true tonal refiners for natural silver white hair. Think about it. Client that decided to go back to her natural silver hair is now suddenly a cut only client. I've lost them as a color client, but they're coming in, they're talking about how their hair feels dull. It's not shiny like it used to be. It's getting this yellow tinge to it. It's just not pretty anymore. That's where these are coming in handy. These are meant to be true tonal refiners for that natural silver white hair. They're going to help get rid of that yellow tone, and they're part of the absolutes range, so they have that pro-age complex, those ciliamines that are going to smooth that hair cuticle, and the collagen to plump up the brittle sites to give a beautiful tonal reflection of gray. With this, silver is the lightest of the shade. You will only notice it on 60% white or more. Then you've got dove gray and gray lilac that sit at about that level 7, 8, but the gray lilac is going to have a bit of a blue violet to it. And then slate gray is the deepest. It's really great for a gray blending if somebody's level 5 naturally and just want to color those dark or those white hairs and make them a darker silver. It's perfect for that. So you can use them on natural silver white hair, but also if somebody is growing out their natural silver white and they are wanting to lift the ends and they really want this silver everywhere, these are what Jack Martin also uses oftentimes to create that multi-dimensional non-natural silver hair. My biggest recommendation for you is that if you're creating that unnatural silver is you need to lift that hair to pale yellow, like inside of a banana peel yellow first. Then you need to pre-tone with a 9.5-1 or violet toner. Reason behind that: if I have a yellow wall and I want to paint it gray, if I don't prime that wall first to make it white and I put a gray over top of, there could be blue, and blue and yellow make a really murky, ugly, muddy green. So if I'm not pre-toning first, I could get unwanted results. So you want to use 9.5-1 toner or your violet like purple shampoo to neutralize first and then use these as your overall final. I like to also low light the hair with Dove Gray, Gray Lilac, and then do silver all over to create my own multi-dimensional shade. But these are mixed with 10 volume Agora Real Developer. And these are meant to process for up to 20 minutes and last up to 20 shampoos. One last thing to add to these, and then we are going to wrap it up for the day. If you've used these before, you know this. If you have not used them before, I want you to know that they process this pretty pink violety shade. So don't freak out if you use these and they turn pink on the hair. Walk away. I promise you the hair will not turn pink. I'm just telling you that because the first time I used them, I did not realize that. I did not rinse it out right away. It will turn silver. I just wanted to give you that hint. And one last little thing, if you see there's a darker and a lighter shade on each of these swatches, the darker is that shade by itself. The lighter is it mixed or diluted with another shade. So it's showing you the full version and a diluted version. So 10 volume Agora Real Developer, 1-to-1 mixing ratio. Jack Martin uses these all the time. That is all the time we have today. Thank you for all of your questions. We're getting into that holiday season. I hope that you guys all have fun plans for Halloween and fun costumes. Thank you for joining me today. Just quick reminder, you can book your one-on-one appointment with an educator at skpedu.com. If you need swatch charts, you can go to our switchwithskp.com page and you can get any downloads and switch charts there. Reminder, we will have more of these Ask Me Anythings, and this one will be put up on Facebook and YouTube after this is done. And we do have those free virtual classes. The next one is next month on November 17th. So go to our Schwarzkopf page and book your next class with us so that you can learn the ins and outs of every brand. So again, thank you today for joining us live. We will be live again in a couple of weeks, so it's going to be November. So enjoy your spooky season, and I will see you in the grateful season on November 6th. We will see you again. So thank you again for joining, and I will see you next time on November 6th.